of the Democracy for Citizens Party, Cleopas Malala, has strongly dismissed claims by Jubilee Party Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni that he is secretly working with President William Ruto. Now speaking in Kakamega County, Malala accused Kioni of being used to divide the opposition, insisting that former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua can never and will never collaborate with President Ruto's administration, which he described as one-term government. Kioni had earlier alleged that former DP was secretly working with the president, a claim that Malala says is baseless and meant to accuse or that cause confusion within the opposition. Take a look.
Wameanza kuja kuleta kisirani hapo. Wale wakina Kioni ambao wanatumwa kukuja kuleta fujo katika United Opposition. Ningependa kuambia Kioni, kama wewe uko kwa United Opposition na uwezi sema one term, wewe ni mole. So kabla mtu yote akuja aseme yeye anapinga serikali, unamwambia kwanza aseme nini? One term. Sasa wewe Kioni, enda kwanza useme one term, ndio tujue wewe sio mtu wa Ruto. Lakini yeye anakuja wanaongea kizungu mingi hapo, economist nini? Sisi tunasema agenda yetu nambari 1 ni Ruto ni one term. Sasa Kioni aache kuleta confusion. Aache kuleta confusion. Anaanza kusema ati Rigathi ni mtu ya William Ruto. Rigiji anaweza kaa na William Ruto kweli? Haezi. Sisi hatuwezi kaa na William Ruto. Ameua watoto wetu. Ameharibu uchumi wetu. William Ruto must go one term. So Kioni, be warned. Don't bring confusion in the United Opposition.
Tarajia kwamba mimi Edgar Busiega Mwanga nitamwachia kiti cha ubunge wa Malava. Nasema asahau na ashindwe katika jina la Yesu. Raia, watu wa Malava, mnakubali niache kiti cha Malava? Niende mpaka kwa debe? Nyinyi mmesema na mimi nitafuata.
All right, now let's talk matters healthcare. And the Institute of Certified Public Accounts of Kenya, IPAC, is demanding an independent probe into the Social Health Authority recruitment saga. Now, this follows the controversial removal of whistleblower Andrew Rotich, who played a critical role in exposing the theft of billions from the list of appointees. Rotich, a former deputy director of forensic audit at SHA, reportedly lost his job after lifting the lead on the massive corruption scandal. ICPAC is also calling for urgent steps in protection of whistleblowers and evidence, including security guarantees for Rotich and his family.
While recruitment processes are the prerogative of appointing authorities, the circumstances surrounding the non-inclusion of CPA Rotich and 2 other deputy directors in the latest shortlist raises issues of public interest. ICPAC's concern is that if left unaddressed, such developments could inadvertently discourage professionals from speaking out on accountability matters.
All right, switching gears to matters education, and public university lecturers have vowed not to return to lecture halls, maintaining that their nationwide strike will continue until the government fully meets their demands in the return to work formula. Through their unions, the Dons accuse the government of going back to, on its word, repeatedly making commitments but failing to honor them, leaving the crisis unresolved and learning in universities disrupted. Now the lecturers, through their unions, KUSU and WASU, are now faulting deputy vice chancellors who have threatened to withhold salaries this month, warning that such a move will only escalate to a standoff. Now the settlement between the government and university lecturers has now brought higher education in the country to its knees.
Mtusikizeni sisi. Sikizeni viongozi wenu. Simameni imara mkidai haki zenu. Haki ni yenu. Katiba ni yetu. Wasimamizi wa vyuo vikuu, wacheni vitisho. Kama mnataka maongezi au majadiliano, tupo. Jongeeni mbele. Ketini kwenye meza, tuangaliani macho kwa macho. Alafu tuzemezane. Lakini kutuambia na kututisha na kufanya nini, hayatasaidia hayo yote, bali mgomo. Swala nzima la mgomo ni kwa sababu sheria au mahakama ilipitisha ya kwamba hawa wafanyikazi walipwe fedha zao. Wasidai, walipeni pesa zao, mgomo utaisha.
3 demands. Moja imetimizwa. Si hiyo mlikula? Sasa mnangoja 7.9. Let them not entice you with the 2.3 billion. Hoovering a few coins of expiation to lecturers like 2.3 billion. You think now that is enough? We want 7.9. Thank you very much.
Right, moving on, in the ongoing bid to register new voters ahead of the next general elections, there was a low turnout of Kenyans seeking to enlist yesterday, as the continuous voter registration exercise entered its third day yesterday. Now, IEBC officials in Naivasha constituency, Nakuru County, have expressed concerns over the poor numbers, urging Kenyans to visit constituency offices countrywide and register as voters. Now, the electoral body is targeting to register at least 6.3 million new voters by the year 2027.
For Naivasha, for 2027 is 201,935 registered voters. Remember, I had started by saying that as at 2022, we had a total of 157,128 registered voters. So way forward is we will have an addition of 44,807. That is the target for Naivasha. And so the numbers are very low, and the challenges might be the voter apathy.
Right, at the same time, youth in Laikipia West have rolled out a voter mobilization drive encouraging their peers to register ahead of the next general elections. Now, the initiative led by Peter Gichia was launched at the IEBC offices in Nyahururu, where the group urged young people to take up their civic duty by registering as voters and making key choices at the ballot. Now, the youth also reflected on the lives lost during the recent Gen Z protests, noting that registering as to vote remains the most effective way of safeguarding their rights. Other residents were further urged to register, verify their details, or transfer their voter cards in readiness for the polls.
We want to mobilize youth to take IDs, and those who don't have IDs, just to come and take IDs and register for voting. As a leader with my fellow comrades, youth and Gen Z, time has come to change and transform our future. Na si story, ni action. We are a significant political force, adding millions of eligible voters to the electorate. Expectation of 6.3 million new registration as a voter. Isikue story, ni action.
This is a call to action to register, vote, and also to remove the leaders who have failed us. If you are tired of a broken system, if you are tired of a system that puts the young people behind and prioritizes their own interests, the first step you can do is to register as a voter.
In Laikipia West, we had around 118 registered voters, but our target is 152,000. So you can see we really need to call out to everybody who is not registered to come and
All right, that's a story we shall be taking a look at on the local dailies this particular day, it being the 4th day of the voter registration exercise continuing in the country. All right, at the same time, leaders in Kirinyaga County are now calling on the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, to work closely with the national government to fast-track the issuance of national identity cards. Now, the leaders, led by former Deputy Governor Peter Ndambiri, says delays at registration offices and Huduma centers are slowing down the registration of new voters ahead of the next general elections. They are urging the government to act swiftly, stressing that it is the right of every eligible citizen to be issued with an ID and participate in the democratic process. Once again, the youth will form a significant portion of the voting bloc.
Kenyans to come out in large numbers. This is the only time that you can be able to change the governance of this nation, right from the MCA to the presidential level. I want to say that your time to bring change in Kenya is now. And that is why I'm stating categorically, the time to go to the streets is over. And I am addressing the young adults, the youths, the Gen Zs, the millennials, that we do not need to go to the streets now. This is a time that we can bring change, the change you have really fought for in this country, the change that so many of us go into the streets and even lose some lives. The time has come. Register as a voter. Register in numbers. Please, if you have not taken your IDs, pick your IDs and go and register as a voter. The time to bring change to our nation, to our county.
All right, moving on to the corridors of justice. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, that is the EACC, has partnered with county governments to establish committees in a bid to strengthen the fight against corruption. Speaking in Tana River County, EACC Commissioner retired Colonel Alfred Mushimba said the new county committees will help prevent the misuse of public funds at the devolved units before graft occurs, rather than relying only on court battles to recover stolen money. Statistics from the commission now show that Tana River County ranks among the counties leading in bravery cases.
Kuna faida zaidi, manake katika county kuna miradi kadhaa, na vile vile governor ametueleza kuna ule mradi muhimu sana ambao anafanya mambo ya urbanization, ambapo ni mradi ambapo kutaenda rasilimali nyingi sana, na kwa hivyo prevention committee kama hizi zitasaidia sana, sababu mambo ya investigations na nini, hiyo ni mambo ya kufuata wakati mali imeenda, mradi umesimama, lakini ukizuia kuna faida kubwa zaidi. Kwa hivyo sasa kwenda mbele, sisi tunataka kupartner na county zote na kuzuia mambo ya ufisadi, na pia hata wananchi kusaidia kwa mambo ya kuzuia mambo ya ufisadi.
Tumekuwa na kikao hapa kuzungumzia haya yote na hatimaye kukubaliana ya kwamba tunahitaji kuweka ile kamati ya kuzuia ufisadi, ambayo ni jambo ambalo EACC wanajaribu kulichangamkia pa kaunti zote, ili kuwe na ushirikiano mzuri kati ya EACC na counties.
Now, the Cabinet Secretary for Public Service, Geoffrey Ruku, has launched the distribution of relief food to drought-affected regions across the country. The CS said the food distribution exercise is expected to sustain residents of the worst-hit counties of the Turkana and Mandera for 1 month, targeting more than 450,000 people. And according to government's estimates, at least 2.15 million people in arid regions are facing hunger. Now, the warning comes as the Meteorological Department projects that the October to December short rains will be below average, worsening the drought situation.
The drought is biting, and therefore we need to intervene before things get out of hand. And that is how it should be.
Food insecurity causes insecurity in the wider perspective of the term insecurity. People are going to start going all over, looking for this way, for a way to live. And that is what brings cattle rustling. That is what is going to send our people across international boundaries.
The government is well prepared to ensure, even if there will be poor performance of short rains during this period of October and December 2025, in January next year and in February next year, there will be enough food in every corner of these counties which are facing food insecurities.
Now, tension is high in Siaya County following Tuesday's shocking attack on striking nurses by suspected hired goons. At least 20 nurses were injured when the attackers descended on them during a peaceful protest outside the county headquarters. Now, the Kenya National Union of Nurses has strongly condemned the incident, demanding justice for the victims and calling on Siaya Governor, that is James Orengo, to urgently step in and resolve the matter.
Within a few minutes, the police came in and started shooting in the air. Live bullets. As they were shooting in the air, the goons started beating our members here with the rungus, and our members have sustained a lot of injuries. We want these people to remit the third-party deductions that they are deducting from our salaries, that when we speak about, we are being beaten by goons. Let them remit the bank loans, the SHA, insurance dues. Hizo tunataka zikuwe settled. Is when we will go back for job.
We are fighting for your right. Don't be used as a goon to beat these nurses. We are communicating like starting today. We are calling any other health worker, contracted included, nurses included. We can't be harassed by the security personnel, and we have all the legally required documents to make us march on the street.
Tukaanguka, tukaanza kuchapwa. Mimi nimechapwa mara mbili kwa mgongo mpaka nikaanguka chini, nikaumia kwa mguu, then hapa na pia nikachapa hapa. So mimi nauliza tu, sisi hatuna ubaya. We are nurses.
Me as an official, I've lost my phone. The goons have taken my phone. My finger, I've also got an injury. And it's very unfortunate to the governor of the county government of Siaya. We are not happy. We are professionals. And you need to deal with us as professionals.
All right, moving on, tight security operations in Nandi County have borne fruits as security officers in Kapsabet town seized 50 kilograms of bang valued at approximately 250,000 Kenya shillings. Now, the illegal consignment was being transported in a matatu that had left Mumias heading to Nairobi. Confirming the incident, Nandi County Head of Intelligence Akate said police officers acted on a tip-off, thus laying a trap before intercepting the vehicle, arresting 2 people, including the driver and a passenger, in connection with the consignment. Now, the 2 are now in custody as investigations are underway as part of the ongoing efforts to stamp out drug trafficking in the region.
The plant material was well stuffed in a bag that is normally or commonly called Nigerian bag. And apparently, preliminary investigation indicates that the plant material belongs to one Titus Mugada, whom we've arrested and treating as a suspect. We have equally arrested the driver of the said motor vehicle as an accomplice to the same, the shuttles that are plying the routes from Western Kenya to Nairobi, that they need to be extra alert and vigilant to ensure that all luggages that are being loaded on their vehicles on transit to whichever destination are well marked. The owners are well known.
All right, moving on, older persons in the country are calling on the government to increase the monthly stipends offered under the Inua Jamii program, saying the current support is inadequate in meeting their needs amid tough economic times. Now, speaking during celebrations to mark the International Day of Older Persons, some of the elderly lamented harassment and neglect in their sunset years. Now, Hadi Trust Kenya Chief Executive Officer Stanley Kamau has urged the government to not only enhance social protection for senior citizens, but also ensure their security and dignity are safeguarded.
Tuna pesa tunapewa. Hii pesa haitoshi. Ni kidogo sana. Tena inachelewa. Kuna miezi ingine tulipata tulikam miezi mbili. Lakini ni mzuri sababu alituma yote.
Gawa mentally inasaidia mkongwe kujisikia ni kama amepata pesa, lakini inaisha the same day na wengine hata haiwafikii. Kwa hivyo mimi nasema ni mwito wangu kwa serikali ihakikisha wakongwe wamepewa pesa kulingana na sheria ya employment. Kulingana na Kenya, sheria ya employment inasema mshahara ile dogo sana ni 15,000.
When people grow old, when I was growing old, we were staying together with our grandmother, with our grandfather. But these days, you people, you have immigrated to town and you have left your mothers and your grandmothers home. They are getting a lot of problems, loneliness, hunger.
We have had cases in some of the counties, I don't want to mention them, where the elderly people have actually been accused of witchcraft, and most of them end up being killed. I think it's a high time for the communities, the neighbors, the provincial administration, the church, every one of us to protect the dignity of the...
Now, tension is high in Busia County as residents raise alarm of a possible cholera outbreak. Now, this following the bursting of a major sewage pipe which has spilled raw waste directly into a river relied upon by locals for daily use. Now, the most affected areas include Omeri, Bondeni, Ojami, and Milimani, where residents say their pleas to the county government have gone unanswered. Now, worried about their health and safety, they are calling on the Health Cabinet Secretary, that is Eden Duale, and the Environment Cabinet Secretary, Deborah Barasa, to intervene urgently and help find a lasting solution.
Sana. Kuna sewage inatoka bondeni, takataka kutoka bondeni hiyo huko Mlimani pale yote inakuja na inakuja kwa hii mto. Sasa sisi hapa tunaumia. Kila wakati magonjwa.
Kutoka hapa mali tuko ni 500 meters kwenda ofisi ya governor, county assembly. Lakini takataka sewage yote inaingia ndani ya hii mto hii. Tuko na hii shida na tumeshindwa kusaidiwa mambo ya hii mtoni. Na wamama, watoto wanahangaika, wanakunywa maji yenye mchanganyika na sewage. So tunaomba serikali, national government itusaidie.
Hii ni spring ambayo ilikuwa ina feed watu wengi sana, na kwa sababu ilikuwa the first water supply hapa Busia. Kwa hivyo tunataka wajenge na wa protect hii catchment area na pia wazuie maji mingi ambayo inatoka town. Na hiyo sewage wafunge kabisa.
Hii mtoni hapo mwanzo ilikuwa inatusaidia, tungefua hapa, tungechota maji ya kunywa hapa. Lakini tangu wafungulie sewage zote za Busia zinamwaga kwa hii mtoni, tungekuja kuweka jerrycan kwa pipe, unaona maji natoka ikuwa na makaratasi, maji natoka ikuwa black. Watoto wameugua, inabidi tununue maji, hatuna pesa ya kununua maji kulingana na uchumi wa.
All right, moving on, residents of Mwangaza B village on the outskirts of Isiolo town are living in fear following two mysterious fire incidents reported in recent days. Now, a group of armed individuals said to have touched a house in what locals believe is linked to ongoing land disputes. Community members now claim the land grabbers are behind the attacks aimed at intimidating families and forcibly driving them out of the area.
Yangu pande ya nyuma pale na wakavunja nyumba pande ya nyuma ambayo ilikuwa ya mbao. Kuvunja nikasikia mara mwisho kama wameingia ndani, nikichomoka tukakutana naye kwa nyumba. Nikajaribu kungangana nao, wakanishinda nguvu, ambayo walikuwa watatu. Walikuwa wamejihami na silaha. Mmoja alikuwa na bunduki, wawili walikuwa na marungu.
Kama upande wa serikali nimesimama nikikashifu hii maneno ya kuchomea watu wengine nyumba ama kuchukua sheria mkononi. Kama uko na issue na mtu na serikali iko, unastahili kuingia kwa serikali ama kwenda pale kotini.
Sisi tunahangaishwa ya kutosha makesi. Mtu anakuja anasema chapa ni yake na yeye si mkai wa Mwangaza kama hapa. Kwa hii kijiji hii mwenye.
All right, it is exactly 26 minutes past the top of the hour. We're taking a short breather here on the program, but when we come back, we're going to take a look on the local dailies in depth. That is after the break. Don't go too far. In corruption allegations or the windfall and bribed Kenyan officials to secure the deals. Now, companies claiming awards is Instalanclones in Abesa, beg your pardon. The Spanish firm filed for insolvency in 2016 and Ketraco terminated its contract in arbitration, awarded it 8.7 billion Kenya shillings. Now, SBI International, that is a company claiming awards, fined over 9 billion Kenya shillings by an Israeli court for bribing Kenyan officials to secure contracts. Courts have awarded it 6.4 billion Kenya shillings. Now, Volcan Limited Health Ministry owes the firm 1 billion for 1996 deals. State officials clashed on whether the goods were supplied. Another bogus claim was rejected. Right now, Edaman Property, the firm is owed 123 million Kenya shillings for the construction of the Lake Basin Mall. Its directors are facing corruption charges. Right now, Nyoro Construction, since the Moi regime, the firm has been chasing 1 billion Kenya shillings, including accrued interest, with the latest court award last year. Now let's take a look at that particular story on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation newspaper dated today. And the collapsed Spanish contractor Instaciones in Abasa SA, Israel's SBI International Holdings Chinese-owned Edaman Property Limited and Kenya's Nyoro Construction and Volcan Limited are owed the amounts from the court and arbitration decisions that double up as expensive lessons for the government on contract law. Now, for Nyoro Construction, the 1 billion Kenya shillings listed in the Treasury budget proposal is the tip of the iceberg made of frustrations of hundreds of contractors whose deals have remained unpaid for years, with some claims stretching back to the era of President Daniel Moi. Right now, when the Kenya Electricity Transmission Company, that is KETRACO, in April 2016 terminated 2 contracts awarded to the Inabesa in SA, it seemed as wise decision as the Spanish firm's parent company had filed an insolvency in its native Seville. So there were doubts as to its ability to finish the job. Now, KETRACO had hired the Inabesa to construct a 132-kilometer electricity transmission line from Lesos in Nandi County to Tororo in Uganda. By the time it was terminating its contract with the Spanish firm, the project was 55% complete. Right? That's a story going on and on page 4 and 5 of the Daily Nation newspaper dated today. Now let's talk matters healthcare. And you will remember that the health workers in Kiambu County are on strike. Just this week, the officials of the health workers said they'll also make, other health facilities in the country to go on strike if the situation in Kiambu County is not, resolved by the government, rather the county government, and the workers obviously are faulting the governor, who is Kimani Wamatangi, who is the Kiambu County governor. Now let's take a look on what's happening in matters health in Kiambu County. Now 136 newborns dead amid Kiambu doctors' strike. Now at least 136 newborns have died in Kiambu County hospitals since the start of the doctors' strike, now in its 127th day. Now the deaths have been recorded at Kiambu, Thika Level 5 hospitals, according to the data by the Doctors' Union, right? And there is a picture there, or rather a table there, of death reported at Kiambu Level 5 Hospital. Now in May, they recorded 18. Now in June, recorded 18. July, they recorded 14. August, they recorded 18. And in Thika Level 5, that is still in Kiambu County, in May, they recorded 6. June, they recorded 9. July, they recorded 7. August, they recorded 11. And September, they recorded 35. Now, the total number of infant deaths reported since May of 2025 sums up to 136 in Kiambu County alone. Right, now let's take a look at that particular story on page 10 of the Daily Nation newspaper. Quite a worrying situation to be in Kiambu County. Right, now in addition, there were 5 maternal deaths during the documents show, the deaths have raised fresh concerns, that is in Kiambu County, over the state of healthcare in one of the country's busiest counties. Now the documents show that between May and August this year, 68 newborns died at Kiambu Level 5 Hospital, and in September alone, Thika Level 5 Hospital recorded 34 newborns' deaths. In addition, there were 5 maternal deaths during the same period, one each at Kihara Level 5, Ruiru Level 5, and Kiambu Level 5 Hospital, and 2 at Thika Level 5 Hospital. Union of officials warned that the crisis could worsen. Now, the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union Kiambu Central Branch chairperson, that is Dr. James Githinji, said that the newborn units in Kiambu and Thika hospitals are being run by intern clinical officers since the strike began. Now, he said the young professionals lack the skills to manage such highly specialized and delicate departments. Now, he explained that while the maternity service in both Kiambu and Thika hospitals remain functional, the newborn units are under immense strain. Now, the county had earlier hired 76 doctors to ease the crisis, but Dr. Githinji said they are not adequately trained to handle newborn cases. KMPDU Secretary General, that is Dr. Davji Atela, who was there, linked the rising deaths to the absence of specialist, delays in treatment, and availing ability to essential emergency drugs, and parents' inability of affordable care, or that afford care in private facilities. Now, he noted that most of the newborns admitted presented with neonatal sepsis linked to poor hospital hygiene, hospital-acquired pneumonia among preterm babies with the underdeveloped lungs and severe jaundice. Now, Dr. Githinji accused county officials of misleading residents into believing that doctors are resumed duties. Right? Such a worrying situation to be at Kiambu County in this particular day in time, where you are treated by interns doctors straight from school, right? That's a story we shall be keeping tabs with and shall be bringing you, subsequent updates in matters healthcare in Kiambu County, of course, subsequent to bulletins later on, of course, in the day, right? Moving on, and of course, before we sum up the matters in Kiambu County, remember that there was a father early this year who took his child to, a facility in Kiambu where they delayed to attend to him, and they said they have to source, an ambulance from another county, to transport the child to another facility since the doctors there were on strike, right? And you'll remember, of course, the child died, and the father was angry. The father was actually crying, because the doctors refused to attend to his son. Such a worrying situation right there in Kiambu County. We hope that the government will look into matters held in the county. All right. Moving on to other matters, striking dons defy salary freeze threat. That's a story on page 8 of the Daily Nation newspaper dated today. Let's take a look at that on the matters strike now. VCS threatens to slash striking dons' pay. Now, the national strike by lecturers in public universities took a new turn yesterday when the vice chancellors warned that participants who would not be paid for the days they were absent from work. Now, at the same time, the VCS and Educational Cabinet Secretary Julius Ogamba have disputed the 1.7 billion arrears that the lecturers are demanding. They claim that the correct amount is 624 million Kenya shillings. As a result, the strike that has paralyzed learning may take longer to resolve. Now, unions representing lecturers and other staff at a press conference maintained that the strike will continue until the until their arrears are paid. Right now, they said that they will not be cowed by threats. Now, the resolution is withhold striking lecturers' pay was passed during a meeting of the Vice Chancellor's Committee. Institutions that had already processed September salaries were told to recover the money for the days that the striking lecturers had not worked. Now, the VCS also questioned that agency fees and unions' dues could be suspended and disciplinary action would be taken. Right now, the VCS also directed the universities to issue a show cause notice and initiate disciplinary proceedings against staff accused of disrupting classes, interfering with students, and obstructing non-striking colleagues from performing their duties. And you'll remember even the students from the universities now say Of course, you'll remember this, that yesterday the students from the University of Nairobi said if the lecturers won't resume work, they'll also join the strike. And also earlier last week, the students at Kenyatta University also said so, that if the stalemate continues, they'll also join the strike because it is disrupting, rather, it is making their education in jeopardy. Now, you remember that the lecturers have been on strike for a week or so now, and yesterday, the Education Cabinet Secretary, that is Julius Migos Ogamba, was grilled at Senate yesterday, right? So that's a story also that we shall be keeping tabs with. Moving on to matters security across our borders, Trump warning to Kenya on military aid. Now the US president spoke on the UN, also approved a new Haiti peace mission. That's on page 11. Also on page 12, Kenyan activist named Time honors list. Now Rose Njeri, a 35-year-old software developer from Nairobi, has been named the Time 100 Next 2025 list. She created a tool for public feedback on draconian taxes. All right, let's take a look at that particular story on page 12. And remember that Rose Njeri was actually arrested during the Finance Bill of 2025 before it was actually passed by the, before it was passed by the Parliament and was later ascended by the President. Rose Njeri was accused and arrested of creating a software where Kenyans would send feedback about their views about the Finance Bill 2025-2026. Now, Rose Njeri Tunguru, a 35-year-old software developer from Nairobi, has been named the Time, that is TIME, 100 Next 2025 list. Now, this follows her creation of digital tool that enabled Kenyans to express oppositions to the finance bill. Now, the recognition comes after the dramatic year in which her work sparked nationwide debate and led to her detention. Now, this cemented her as a symbol of civic technology and citizen activism in Kenya. Now, in May, Tunguru launched an online platform enabling citizens to email government officials directly about the proposed finance bill in efforts to foster citizens' participation. Now, Tunguru's initial post on X announcing the tool quickly went viral, garnering nearly 1 million views and drawing global attention. Now, within days, however, her attention attention led to detention of her. She was detained under Kenya's cybercrime laws and her devices were seized. Now the arrest sparked public outrage, with human rights organizations such as Amnesty International Kenya calling for her immediate release. It was highlighted the tension between civic innovation and regulatory oversight in Kenya. Now, many observers also saw the arrest as an attempt to silence citizens' participation in the legislative process. Right? That's what's up on the Daily Nation newspaper on the front page, and on the second page on the third page of the Daily Nation, family defends Matatu driver in crash that killed 16 relatives. Now, as questions swirl over the Sunday's Kariandosi road crash that claimed 16 lives of 16 family members, the relatives insist the driver of the ill-fated Matatu, Elijah Mboro, was no reckless man, but a devoted father and breadwinner who lived for family unity. Now, the 34-year-old, whose Matatu collided head-on with a trailer on the Nairobi-Nakuru highway, was on Tuesday remembered by his mother as a God-fearing man who loved life. Now, Mboro perished alongside his passengers, all of them close relatives, as they headed to Lanet in Nakuru County to visit an ailing aunt, a 65-year-old Pauline Modhoni. Now, his mother, Susan Wanjiro, defended her son's character, describing him as a disciplined, sober man who never touched drugs or alcohol. Now, to support his business, family members had hired his vehicle for the journey, each of the 13 adults contributing 2,000 Kenya shillings. Now, among the dead were Mboro's grandfather, 85-year-old Elijah Mboro, after whom he was named. Now his mother, Lydia Njeri, 75, and his mother's twin sisters, Naomi Wangoi and Joyce Wamboi, both aged 35. Now his mother also lost two other sisters, Catherine Jambi, who is 30 years old, and Pauline Modoni, who is 28 years old. Now the tragedy also claimed the lives of Robinson Karanja, an 85-year-old brother to the grandmother, aunts, relatives, and 4 children. Mr. Moro leaves behind a widow and 4 young children aged between 9 years and 1.5. And of course, our condolences goes out to the family and friends of the family, and of course, they that lost their loved ones in the crash earlier on Sunday, right? And may the souls rest in peace. Now, page 2 of the Daily Nation top story. Parents' agony as girl dies after allegedly being hit by a teacher. Now, this particular story made headlines yesterday after Alex Tunje had high hopes of his firstborn daughter, that is Ernestine Tunje, an aspiring athlete. However, his hopes were dashed when the grade 8 died last Thursday after she was allegedly assaulted by her teacher. Now, the incident happened at Gangoni Primary School, 500 meters from her home in Junju Kilifi County. It is alleged that she was hit on the head by her teacher after failing to answer a question. Now, at her class, her desk is empty. Her classmates murmur and whisper about what transpired. The learners said that after the incident, chaos erupted in the school and the teacher has not been back since. And according to the pupils, the corporal punishment is common in the school despite it being banned. But neither the head teacher nor the suspect has come here to explain to them what happened to the daughter. Now the father, a border rider, said his daughter came home from school on Thursday last week complaining of a terrible headache. He asked her to visit a nearby dispensary for medical checkup. Now she was rushed to a nearby hospital where she was then referred to Kilifi County Referral Hospital. Postmortem examination results show the girl died of blood clots. Right? Now, during the interview with his remaining children, looked painfully and at the picture at their dead sister from the father's phone with tears rolling down their cheeks. Right? And there is a picture there, of course, of that the slain girl, that is Ernestine Tunje, who died after allegedly being hit on the head by her teacher. Right? And one may wonder why beat a girl, especially a girl, why beat a pupil to that extent? And I see it's fit, if a teacher have some issues from home, don't bring your issues to school, because that may disrupt even the concentration of the pupils, right? And we hope that justice will be served to the slain Ernest Tunje and the family and friends and the school community. Of course, this should be a warning to other teachers issuing punitive punishments in schools, right? Moving on to matters education, release funding schools heads urge. Now the Kenya Primary Schools Heads Association, that is KEPSHA, has sounded an alarm over the delays in releasing funds to schools, saying the thousands of institutions are running on empty as the crucial third term enters its 6th week. Right, that's a story on matters education on page 2 of the Daily Nation. You may want to take a look at that particular story. Now let's take a look on what's making headlines on the Standard newspaper dated today. Now, top story on the Standard newspaper dated today, the 2nd day, the 10th month of 2025. Top story on the Standard newspaper says Haiti, pain and death. Right, Kenya's 15 mission in Haiti ends not in triumph but in tragedy. 3 officers dead, families grieving without the closure, and a force plagued by understaffing, poor equipment, and diplomatic missteps. As the UN ushers in a new gang suppression force that might include the Kenyan officers or leave them out, the question lingers: was Kenya's costly gamble a symbol of solidarity or a reckless venture paid for in blood, right? There is pictures there of, police officers who were in Haiti, and of course the slain police officers. And there is a picture there also of Naomi Samuel, wife of the late Samuel Kaitaoui, the police officer who was killed in Haiti with Samuel's mother, Jennifer Kaitaoui, during an interview, with these particular newspapers in Kajiado County. That is on February of 2025. Now let's take a look at this particular story on page 4 of the Standard newspaper, Death Abroad. Right, and you'll remember recently, before the operation ended, there was a police officer who was reported missing and was later announced dead. Not to the family, but the family learned about his death during the television. Right. Let's take a look at the particular story on page 4, and today marks the official end of Kenya's leadership of the multinational security mission, that is MSS mission in Haiti. Now, for 15 months, Kenyan police officers have been in Caribbean nation more than 12,000 kilometers away, attempting to bring order to a country gripped by gang violence, political collapse, and humanitarian disaster. Now, the President, William Ruto, announced in 2023 that the Kenya would take the lead in deploying police in Haiti. His government cast the missions as a bold act of Pan-African and global solidarity. Now, Kenya will answer the world's call, stand in Haitians in their darkest hour, and demonstrate its growing diplomatic influence. But not everyone applauded the mission, despite the state's rosy assurances. Now, the controversial deployment faced political and legal hurdles faced from a section of Kenyans and activists. Now, in the end, however, the police were dispatched to Haiti regardless, but as the mission mandates lapses, questions abound. Did the deployment achieve its goals, or was it expensive ego trip at the cost of Kenyan lives? And perhaps the painful what was the families of the officers who never returned, right? Now, for the families of the 3 of the officers who died in Haiti, the mission is ending not with honor, but with heartbreak, anger, and regret. In February, Constable Samuel Kitwai, a 28-year-old man, was shot during an operation in Tibonit and later died in hospital. He became the first Kenyan officer to die in Haiti. When his parents received the news at their home in Kajiado East, grief was evident. Now, Kaitwai's widow, that is Naomi, left to raise their 2 young children, said death was devastating. Right? Now, a quote that was said by Haiti ambassador to UN, that is Pierre-Eric Pierre, says, and I quote, that MSS was a valuable support, but the threat far exceeded its mandate. The new mission gives us the means to respond to the gravity of the situation, and the story is titled Deadly Gamble. Title rather little to show a Kenyan-led Haiti mission is replaced by UN. Right? That's a story you may want to take a look at on page 4 of the Standard newspaper, dated today, the 2nd day of October 2025. All right, now cricket board fights amid 26.7 million scam probe. That's on page 5 of the Standard newspaper. Now, on the front page still of the Standard newspaper, there is a picture there of police IG, that is Douglas Kanja. And AG backs Kanja is in fighting to retain police payroll. And Attorney General Dorcas Odor has thrown her weight behind Inspector General Douglas Kanja in his bruising fight with the National Police Service Commission over who controls the 60 billion Kenya shillings police payroll. A battle that now threatens to chain of command, exposes bitter institutional rivalries, and risks plunging the service into deeper crisis. That's the story on page 9 of the Star Standard newspaper. And you'll remember that there was a time back in last month where, the police, this matter was actually in the Senate, and the IG asked the House that if this matter would be, solved away from cameras, that is, away from the media. But the Speaker insisted that there's nothing to hide and the matter be, proceed on cameras, all right? Now let's take a look at the particular story on page 9 of the Standard newspaper. Now the Attorney General, that is Dorcas Odur, has backed Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja in his fight with the National Police Service Commission, that is NPCS, over the 60 billion police payroll. Kanja, who heads the National Police Service, that is NPS, has been at loggerheads with the commission. He sits in overhandling over the payroll and further functions. Now their argument, NPCS, which is chaired by Dr. Amani Yudo Komora, say the payroll is a human resource issue that should be under them, while Kanja has argued that it is an operation issue that should be handled by him. At the same time, NPCS is made up of civilians of former officers. Kanja sits in the commission alongside with his deputies Gilbert Masengeli, Eliud Lagat, as well as Director of Criminal Investigations, that is Mohammed Amin. Now, Odoro's decisions to back Kanja was revealed in submissions by the State Counsel Jacqueline Kiramana in a withdrawal case that had been filed by lawyer Shadrack Wamboi and lobby group that is Sheria Mtani. Now, in the case, Wamboi had sued IG Kanja, NPS, AG, and NPCS, NPSC, I beg your pardon, and the Law Society of Kenya as interested parties. Right now, in her response to the petitions, Kiramana said that Wamboi had and Sheria Mtani were misrepresenting the law. All right, that's a story on page 9 of the Standard newspaper. Tough wars there among our security agencies. Now, on page 3, matters national and no let up as lecturers vow to stay put. That matters the ongoing lecturers strike on page 3 of the Standard newspaper. And university strikes talks stall amid 7.9 billion standoff, and efforts to end the ongoing university staff strike are in limbo following a standoff over the amount owed. Now, yesterday, Education Cabinet Secretary, that is Julius Ogamba, and the University Academic Staff Union, that is separately disagreed on how to end the strike, with the union insisting that the government has to pay 7.9 billion Kenya shillings. But while appearing before the Senate, the CS said the amount lecturers are demanding is in contention. Now, the CS noted that the court order temporarily stopped the strike and required verification of the disputed figures. Now, the Kenya University Staff Union, that is KUSU, Secretary General at the same time, that is Charles Mukhwana, accused vice chancellors and university councils of misleading the public. Now, Dr. Mukhwana warned that the failure to honor the agreements amounted to contempt of court. He urged union members to stand firm despite what he termed as threats from university management. However, Ogamba insisted that the government would undertake an audit to ascertain the true figure of the money owed to the university staff. Dr. Constantine Wesonga, the WASU Secretary General, however, said that any audit must involve the unions. Wasonga further revealed that union would on Monday file a rejoinder challenging an earlier court case that ruled their strike illegal. The Employment of Labor Relations Court on September 19th also issued an order halting the strike to allow for a legal mandate conciliation process. Right, that's a story on page 3, exclusively on page 3 of the Standard newspaper, dated today. Right now on page 5, boardroom wars deepens in cricket. Kenya, and of course, that's a story on page 5 of the Standard newspaper. Also, top story on the front page of the Standard newspaper. cricket board fights amid 26.7 million scam probe. And you will notice that, in these, local dailies, news are revolving around, corruption. This scandal, this money is missing. Lecturers demanding their money. Kiambu County health workers demanding for money, and of course, there's a lot of, quote unquote corruption in the recent stories that we've covered here on the Morning Live, on the dailies today. All right. Now, because I'm a sports person, let's take a look on what's making headlines in the world of sports. And on the back page of the Daily Nation says, where is the gold? Concerns as Kenya's male athletes struggle. Nai Sugoi is in common Japanese word meaning extraordinary. Now, the expression lent is meaning to the motto every second Sugoi of the 20th edition of the World Athletics Championships in Tokyo, Japan, held between September 13th and 21st. Now, the athletes embodied that slogan between the Kenya's middle and long-distance female runners. For the first time in history, runners champions on country. Kenya swept gold medals across the women's 800 meters. And of course, there are names there of the athletes who clinched the various awards, and adding to the haul were silver medals won by Dorcas Owori and Faith Kipyegon. In total, Kenya's female athletes counted for 8 of the 11 medals and country won in Tokyo. Now, this ratio aligned the growing disparity between the performances of male and female athletes in recent years. All right. Now, much of the discussion backdates in 2020 Tokyo Olympics Games, where Kenyan men failed to win gold in the 300 meters steeplechase for the first time since 1987. Right now, the setback has been compounded by underwhelming performances in the 15 meters and marathon at subsequent Olympics of the World Championships, igniting concerns that the famed boy-child crisis has spilled over into athletics. And I don't know what's your take on that. Our lady athletes are now shining, rather, flying off flag high in the international soil, right? And I'll agree with the Daily Nation. The female athletes are now, flying off flag high in international grounds. Of course, congratulations, of course, to the males and females in the field, and in the athletics field, and of course in the football, for their stellar performances in representing the country. Right now, it is exactly 5 minutes past the top of the hour. You've been watching Morning Live. My name is Martin Masharia, and at that particular note, we wrap up Morning Live this particular morning. But let's meet again in the course of the day, even as we keep you up to speed, those making headlines from across our 47 counties, and of course in the sports, as well as across our borders. So we shall also be keeping tabs with these developing stories, and we shall be bringing you later on in our subsequent bulletins later on in the day. Your Faith Today by Reverend Felix Cavoy is coming up next in the top of the hour at 9 a.m. Don't want to miss that particular show, right? It is exactly 6 minutes past the top of the hour. My name is Martin Mashara. You've been watching Morning Live. And as always, let's do this again when God says we do.
Thank you.